by S&G Grant Thornton warns of tough times that lie ahead for South Africa. The survey has found that investment intentions among mid-market businesses have dropped. Optimism from the outlook of the economy is also said to be low. This is despite the further easing of lockdown regulations. Around 100 business leaders from various sectors were interviewed for the survey. For more on this, I am joined by Yugen Pillay, who's the National Director of Business Consulting at S&G Grant Thornton. Thank you so much for your time, Yugen. We do appreciate it. I can't deal with all this bad news, but maybe just tell us why it seems like there's still going to be quite a bumpy road for South Africans.
Good evening to you, Heidi, and the viewers. Yeah, we as South Africans always look for the good. I must say, when I got the results of the survey, I was also taken a bit back about where we were, because we had just come out of the previous 6 months, whereby it seemed as if things were turning around. And then suddenly, it doesn't seem that way anymore. And what's giving so what the survey actually covers is the views of mid-market leaders and where they see the outlook going. And in terms of the survey, when we look at the elements of health of a business, first of all, we ask optimism. Where's the optimism? When we came out of the first 6 months, 49% of companies were very optimistic, and that suddenly dropped to 44%. And a lot of that goes into just in terms of revenues that are down, and with revenues being down, profits as well. Many companies are then looking to export or go into international markets, but just the barrier to entry, the taxes that goes into that, or even the transport costs. So yeah, there is some good reasons out there for business leaders, to be a bit concerned.
Before we get into the green shoots, because we must always try and find the silver lining in every bad story, but maybe if you can go into more depth of the survey and just tell us why things aren't looking up for businesses in South Africa, because I know we just come out of a terrible 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic. We also had the July unrest that caused havoc in many businesses across the country. But what is the main reason that businesses aren't really going to be doing well and haven't truly recovered from the last 2 years?
So Hari, 70% of businesses, in terms of the survey and the results, they believe the economic uncertainty. So they're just afraid to make those extra investments. In terms of, if we had to look at the previous 6 months, there was going to be 84% of companies that were going to invest in technology. That had suddenly dropped to 60%. Staff skills, 74% of companies wanted to, invest in their staff. That has now dropped to 62%, because companies want to rather hold onto their reserves, onto their cash. In terms of research and development, 70% of companies, that has dropped to 54% in the last 6 months. New buildings and has dropped from 62% to 40%. Plant and machinery as well. There's just no investments or very little investments coming through. Some other issues that we do have in our country with the economic uncertainty is the rising fuel costs. You'd see that the interest rates are going to rise. At some point, they would have to normalize, and therefore, that's increased rates coming through. Load shedding, I mean, there are lots of companies, especially in South Africa, that's in your energy and natural resources spaces, that depend on energy. And load shedding obviously doesn't contribute towards that. Other factors is just regulations, red tape. It takes 30% more longer in South Africa to complete SARS and tax forms. Just the availability of skilled labor. We have so a lot of people leaving South Africa. And yeah, just shortage of finance because once again, it comes through to the investment in the country.
I don't want to end this interview off with such bad news because we know how difficult things are. We know, the load shedding, petrol price, things are really tough for businesses to try and pick up from the devastation of the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you have any good news from this survey? Are there any green shoots that we can look forward to?
There's always good news. South Africa is a country that, there's always good news. If you have to look at what's happening in our energy and natural resources space, when you have a look at the commodity prices, I think in terms of just clean energy, opportunities in that space, opportunities in agriculture, in terms of if you just had to look at a quick framework of any business out there today, understand what's happening in the environment, understand what's happening to your client, look at how do I assist my people, how do I keep them healthy and safe, and lastly, just how do I manage my supply chain risk. If you look at that framework and really focus on your business, Heidi, it's always there's some positivity that's going to come out of that.
Hopefully, I hope we can recover from the devastation we've experienced because it's really been tough, especially with this petrol price and load shedding. But thank you so much for your insights. We really do appreciate it. That was Yugen Pillay, who's the National Director of Business Consulting at SNG Grant Thornton. We must always look for the silver lining in every story. Let's go to a quick ad break. We'll be back with more news after the break. Stay with us.